Hey, welcome to Mr. News Inktober day. What's today? The 13th. And today's prompt is Dune. I kind of regretted yesterday making these snowy hills because they almost look like sand dunes. But then, I got to thinking, I don't have a lot of time this morning. So why don't I just carry on this landscape? Just like I carried on a landscape a couple frames up here, I'll just carry on this landscape and have the snow turn into a desert. That sounds plausible. So, anyway, without further ado, I'm going to start out with a sketch. And let's see, this little area is going to carry over, and then this hill is going to turn into a dune here, and maybe this little line's going to swoosh up into another dune. Oh, come on, somebody's texting me. Go away. Okay, I'll answer that in a little bit. Yeah, let's see. Should I carry that one all the way across, or should I? Because I'm thinking, let's have another more distant dune here. When I first saw this set of prompts, when I first saw the 2020 Inktober official prompt list, I really got excited when I saw the word Dune, because I've always loved the book by Frank Herbert, and gosh, I read that back in middle school, maybe high school, but I think it was middle school. Always loved that book, and there's never been really a successful movie or TV adaptation of that book. There was well, let's just put it this way. There have been a couple of renditions. There's been a couple of, they just haven't been good. There was one, I can't remember which version it was, but there was one that wasn't terrible, but it also wasn't good. Let's see, what do I want to do for the sky? Just carry on the night sky? I don't know, we'll figure it out. But I think maybe adding some cacti would be good. Anyway, so when I saw the prompt list and saw that Dune was on that prompt list, I was really super excited because I was thinking, ooh, I'm going to draw some Fremen, or I'm going to draw a, one of the worms, one of the sandworms, or something. I had a bunch of ideas going through my head. And speaking of, I was mentioning before the TV video, movie renditions, there's a new, the trailer for the new movie came out recently, and I'm actually excited. I'm still, I'm not going to hold my breath, and I'm not going to expect it to be awesome or amazing or absolutely perfect or on point or incredible. But it definitely looks better than any of the previous renditions of that book. Speaking of that, I read an article shortly after that came out, that trailer came out, where they were talking about how Dune was the anti-Star Wars, or rather, Star Wars was the anti-Dune, right? Because like in Star Wars, you've got like the clear delineation of good versus evil. You've got In Star Wars, you've got a situation where the protagonist leaves a desert planet. Do I want to have a tumbleweed here? Maybe. Anyway, you've got a situation where the protagonist leaves a desert planet to go become a part of society, the high society, the great Jedi Knights. But in Dune, you kind of have the opposite. You have a prince who, you know what, I think that's enough. You have a prince who his family is leaving the high society world and moving to the desert planet. Now, yes, it is like the richest planet because it's the only planet in the universe where the spice comes from, but it's clearly, especially by, you know, most of the characters of the books, it is perceived to be a downgrade, right? Moving from Caladan to Arrakis. And so there's a bunch of parallels between Dune and Star Wars that are sort of, I say parallel, I should call them perpendiculars because, or I was going to say they're parallels, but they are reversed, right? But there's also some things that are just clearly fundamental differences between the philosophies of the two stories, right? Star Wars is clearly a philosophy of good versus evil. Good always wins. Even the evil can be redeemed. Right? That's like the fundamental idea behind the original Star Wars story. Right? Whereas the fundamental idea of the story behind Dune is more one of survival. It's more one of, you know, when a good man is put into these survival situations, what is he willing to do to survive? Right? There's also undertones of, you know, in the Dune series, there's undertones of be careful how much you mess with human nature and be careful how much you mess with nature, right? And also, you know, where Star Wars is all let's just say there's a lot of flawed characters in Dune, right? In Star Wars, they sort of try to make the characters into sort of idealized versions of humanity, right? All these, you know, like Han Solo, right? Han Solo is clearly a scumbag. He's clearly like, he's a pirate basically, right? I mean, or a smuggler, right? I mean, he's clearly not, you know, a stand-up citizen. And yet they idealize him and turn him into this, you know, good guy character. I don't know. There's a lot of that happening in the Star Wars universe, but in the universe of Dune, in that book, characters have clear flaws. All of them do. And anyway, so there's just it makes for much more interesting storytelling because you have situations that are much more real and much more gut felt. You know, in the Star Wars, yeah, it's like, oh, you know, you get the chills, the goosebumps going up your arms when, oh, the good guys win, and then there's the pomp and circumstance and the fancy music, and they're getting rewarded, they're getting their medals for doing a good job. In Dune, it's like, questionable activity. Like, should the good guy really have done that? I don't know. Is he really a good guy? Or is he just a guy? You know? I've always liked that thought, that aspect of it, of, you know, people are people, and people are going to make choices about what they do and how they, you know, interact with the universe around them. And those choices are not always going to be easily defined as good guy, bad guy choices, right? Like one of the things I've been trying to teach my kids is there really such a thing as good guys and bad guys, right? In real life, right? Like when we have the conversation about protecting yourself, defending yourself, if there's an intruder, if there's somebody trying to hurt you or hurt your family or hurt your friends or even hurt a random stranger, right? My kids have been taking karate for a little bit, so we've had a lot of these self-defense kind of conversations and, you know, responsibility of protecting yourself and others. And, you know, so anyway, you know, one of the things they like to say is, if there's a bad guy, you know, that's when it's okay to fight, is if there's a bad guy. I'm like, wait. What is a bad guy? Right? Like, clearly there are times when you could point at, you know, some action that a person is doing and say, that right there, I need to protect people from that. That is bad, and I need to do something good to protect. But, you know, the way I kind of pointed out to them is, we all make mistakes. We all make not just mistakes, but we all make bad choices. We all make choices that hurt other people. And so what do you really call a bad guy? Like, should I be called a bad guy for some of the bad choices I've made in my life? I mean, I have made clear, not just mistakes, but bad choices before. Harmful, hurtful, hateful. I'm not perfect. And I know, you know, especially when I was younger, I made hurtful, harmful statements all the time. I never really, you know, I never purposefully physically hurt anybody. But I've made my share of harmful, hurtful statements. Does that mean I'm a bad guy? If I punch somebody in the face, does that mean I'm a bad guy? Does it mean I'm making a bad choice? Going back to the Star Wars idea, redemption, right? Spoiler alert, if you've never watched Star Wars, Darth Vader, the bad guy, ends up saving the galaxy. Right? So, it's, going back to that thought of, what is a bad guy really? When can you really just call somebody a bad guy and say, like, this person is no longer considered to be humane or a human. I no longer have to give them the same respect that is due to people in general because they are a bad guy. When do you cross that line? Is it murder? Is it rape? Is it abuse? Where do you draw that line? And it's not an easy question. It's not an easy question to answer. But these are the kinds of conversations that we have to have with ourselves. And I think, going back to the book Dune, it's kind of one of those questions that whole series of books tries to take a real hard look at. At what point is a person a good guy or a bad guy? Or at what point is a person just making good choices or making bad choices, right? There's plenty of instances in that book when the good guy, the protagonist of the story, is making choices that are clearly bad choices. But he can see the future and he knows what, if he does this, then that happens. And if he does that, then that happens. And so he's making his choices, his decisions, not based on what's right now, but based on what's going to have the most positive outcome in the end. But again, I say, does that make those choices good? Right? Those are the kinds of questions that book brings to discussion. Like, what makes a choice a good choice? Is it because I've seen the outcome of that choice and I know that it's going to lead to the least amount of suffering in total? Or is it because this right here is a good choice for right now? Right? Some examples, right? Okay. Well, if you've, spoiler alert again, in the book Dune, one of the sort of final steps that kind of ends the first book and is a major part of the story moving forward into the later books, is the jihad, right? The holy war that Paul sends the Fremen out into the universe to have their war. And, is that good? Well, he knows that it's going to bring millennia of peace and, that for thousands of years or however long it is, I don't even know how long, that it's going to be, because he can see the future. So he knows that war, even though it's a terrible, bloody war with lots of death and stuff, he knows that is necessary, I guess, for for the greater good, I guess you would say, right? And so it's these kinds of questions. They're hard questions. And some people have a clearly defined answer about what, they would say. Like, yes, the greater good. Do what's best for the greater good, even if it hurts people now. And other people would say, no, you do what's right. In the moment, you do what's right. And just because something is going to have a greater good outcome in the end doesn't mean it's the right choice to make, because, you should never murder, never kill, never, steal, never, whatever it is, right? Even if it's going to be better in the long term, right? And then there are other people who see the gray area and, confounded by it, have no bearing whatsoever on how to even begin to answer those kinds of questions. They've never been challenged in those ways. And I think it's important to challenge yourself, especially if you're one of the people who's got your mind set on this is the right answer. Because if you've got your mind set on this is the right answer, and this goes for like everything. If you've got your mind set on this is the right answer for what I'm going to draw today, or this is the right answer for who I'm going to vote for, or this is the right answer for which political party is the good party, and which candidate is evil, and who deserves to die because of their actions. And all of those questions are really, really hard to answer. And the more set you are in your understanding, the more you need to question your understanding. Anyway, I'm done with Dune. I had an interesting discussion based on that. I really like how that worked into the previous day. Like, that's clearly snow. That's clearly a desert. Together, it's clearly undecided. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that drawing. I hope you enjoyed our little discussion today of right and wrong, good and evil, and the hard choices we have to make as humans. Tomorrow, let's see, what's the prompt for tomorrow? Armor. Tomorrow we'll do some kind of armor, I guess. Can't wait to see you then.